The 2023 NASCAR Hall of Fame class has been officially revealed. Dover Motor Speedway is expected to return to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule for many years to come, and many Darlington throwback paint schemes, among other things, have been officially revealed. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We've got a ton of NASCAR and other motorsports stories to discuss here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those really quickly. We're going to start with paint schemes and sponsorship news first. Let's jump into those really quickly. The first paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ty Reddick's 2022 Bobby Allison throwback scheme that we're going to see in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. This is a really good looking throwback in my opinion, but we've seen this throwback many times before. But I will say once again, just like the previous times, I think this throwback paint scheme is really good. They did a great job on it, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing on the racetrack here this weekend at the Darlington Throwback race. The next paint schemes we're taking a look at are Dillon Suarez and Ross Chastain's 2022 Coca-Cola throwback schemes, which are throwback to when they ran these cars in Japan. It's a throwback to Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jr. when they rode the 1 and the number 3. These are not only potentially the best throwback schemes of this year, I think these are some of the best throwbacks that have ever been revealed. It's absolutely accurate. Now, unfortunately, the 1 does have a slasher currently at the moment, but these throwbacks are absolutely incredible. There's just nothing bad I can say about it. Both of them look amazing, and is Ross Chastain part of the Coca-Cola family now? I'm not really sure, but holy bananas, this is one of the best throwbacks I've ever seen. It looks absolutely incredible, and I think that this is going to be the best throwback we have seen so far, probably ever in Throwback Weekend. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Stephen Parsons' 2022 Phil Parsons throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend in the Darlington Throwback race. This is a good throwback, in my opinion. I think did a really solid job on it. I love the fact that Brett Veach with Klausing among other teams are allowing them to change it up. It's a nice looking throwback, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing on the racetrack here at Darlington Throwback race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Brandon Brown's 2022 Brandon Brown throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend at the Darlington Throwback race. This, of course, is bound going back to days when Brandon Brown won his first, it was some of his late model race that he ran back in the day, and also when he went out there and won his first ever NASCAR Xfinity Series race. This is a really good looking paint scheme in my opinion. I think it looks really solid. I'm actually really excited to see this one on the racetrack, and I'm glad to see that this one will be out on the racetrack for the Darlington Throwback race. The next main scheme we're taking a look at is Sheldon Creed's 2022 Whelen alternate scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Darlington weekend. This paint scheme looks really cool in my opinion. Unfortunately, it's not a throwback, but I love that they're alternating it. I actually like this one a lot better than the other one. I think this one looks absolutely much better. I kind of hope this is the Whelen car that they run the rest of the year because I think it looks absolutely great, and hopefully we'll see this paint scheme out on the racetrack more in 2022. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Tommy Joe Martin's 2022 Tommy Joe Martin's throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend at the Darlington Throwback race. This is throwing it back to last year's paint scheme, which I don't exactly remember which one they ran last year, what the throwback exactly was to, maybe the Red Farm or something like that. But I think it's a pretty good looking throwback in my opinion. It's very similar to last year, which there's not much bad I can say about last year's scheme, and I think this one looks really good too. They did a great job on it, and I'm looking forward to seeing on the racetrack at Darlington Throwback race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ryan Blaney's 2022 Wrangler Menard scheme that we're going to see, I believe, next weekend at Kansas. I think a couple other races as well. I think it's a nice looking paint scheme, to be honest with you. It's actually one of the better Menards looking schemes we've seen. I love the Wrangler on the front. I think the blue works pretty good on the front of the car. And I also like the side, but it's not the best one I've seen so far. But it does look pretty good. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing on the racetrack next weekend at Kansas. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Brandon Jones' 2022 Paul Menard throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend at the Darlington Throwback race. This absolutely is an incredible throwback. I know some people are trying to say it was a Matt Crafton throwback. No, this is very accurate. And honestly, I think they should run this one for Brandon Jones for the rest of the season. It looks really good. They did an amazing job on it. It's one of my favorite Xfinity throwbacks of this year. Probably one of my top 10 from up there, almost my top 10 favorite throwbacks. It's a good looking throwback, and I'm looking forward to see on the racetrack in the Darlington Throwback race. The next paint schemes we're taking a look at are Erik Jones and Ty Dillon's 2022 Richard Petty and Lee Petty throwback schemes that we're going to see at the Darlington Throwback race. This is throwing back, of course, to the 1959 Daytona 500. Absolutely incredible looking paint schemes. I did think they overall did an amazing job on these paint schemes in my opinion, and we'll talk about it tomorrow on my overall thoughts, but it looks really good in my opinion. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Snyders' 2022 Ken Schrader throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend at the Darlington Throwback race. Overall, really love this Ken Schrader throwback scheme. I think it's a nice look at throwback overall. Pretty accurate, too, the way that they did it. It looks really good. I'm looking forward to seeing the racetrack in the throwback race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Austin Dillon's 2022 Huck scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Darlington. Unfortunately, this is not a throwback scheme, but I think this paint scheme is okay in my opinion. I just don't think they're using sponsorization as much as they could. I do like the blue and the white. I think that's one good thing about this car, but it's not my favorite paint scheme, but hopefully he'll have a good run in this car this weekend. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s 2022 Kroger Nature Valley scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Darlington. At least this time they're not trying to hide the fact it's a throwback or not. At least you can tell it's not a throwback this time around. Overall, I think it does look decent in my opinion. I think that they've definitely done a better job, and they've had some bad ones this year, but I think overall JTG's done a lot better this year than they've done in the past. The next paint schemes we're taking a look at are BJ McLeod's and Josh Williams' 2022 BJ McLeod throwback schemes that we're seeing at the Darlington throwback race. These, of course, are throwbacks to when BJ McLeod was in the late model scene. These look really, really cool in my opinion. Look very, very similar to what he ran back in the late models, so it looks really, really good. And I'm looking forward to seeing on the racetrack in the Darlington throwback race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Massey's 2022 Marty Massey throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend at the Darlington throwback race. Overall, this is actually a pretty decent throwback in my opinion. It's cool that Mason is throwing back to his father. I think it actually looks really, really good. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the racetrack in the Darlington throwback race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Kylekirkwood's 2022 H&W electrical scheme that we're going to see this weekend. It's a shame that RSS Racing is not doing a throwback this weekend, but I will say it's cool that they have a new company that's willing to work with them. I'm glad to see they have a new paint scheme for this weekend at Darlington. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Anthony Alfredo's 2022 Tom Hubert throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Darlington throwback race. When I really look at this paint scheme, it looks more like a Hutch Strickland throwback, but if it is really a Tom Hubert throwback, fair play to them. But I will say this looks really, really cool. It's going to look weird to have dew wipes on the side of the car, but I will say it looks pretty good, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the racetrack in the Darlington throwback race. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Alex Abay's 2022 Marion Edwards throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend at the Darlington throwback race. This is, of course, like I said, it's a throwback to Marion Edwards from 1976. It does look pretty good in my opinion. I think did a really solid job on it, and it's good to see that they're attributing back to someone from the 1970s. Looks pretty decent in my opinion. Excited to see it on the racetrack. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Daniel Hemric's 2022 AG1 Solutions scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Darlington. It's a shame that Kaulig isn't doing a throwback for any of their Cup or Xfinity Series teams. Kind of a shame right there. I think this does look really, really good, though, in all honesty. I've liked it in the Xfinity Series, and I like it here in the Cup Series. So it does look pretty good, and I'm looking forward to seeing on the racetrack this weekend at Darlington. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is J.G. Yeley's 2022 Clint Boyer throwback scheme that we're going to be seeing this weekend at Darlington. Oh my gosh, it's pretty much exactly accurate. I love this paint scheme. Rick Ware has done a really good job with some of their paint schemes so far, and I really love this one. It's a really nice look at throwback. I'm very excited to see it on the racetrack, and I'm very happy that we'll be seeing a throwback to this paint scheme this weekend. I love it. And finally, the final throwback paint scheme we're taking a look at as of now is Cody Ware's 2022 Mike Stefanik throwback scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Darlington. This is a throwback to Mike Stefanik's, I think, Busch Grand National car from 1999, if I'm not mistaken, which I think it does look pretty accurate. I wish they would have done a little more to this one, but it does look pretty good in my opinion. It's solid, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing on the racetrack in the Darlington throwback race this weekend in the NASCAR Cup Series. And now we're going to go on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Darlington purse money for this weekend. So, for the NASCAR Cup Series, the purse money is $7,240,000 or $292,599. For the Xfinity Series, it's $1,273,583. And for the Truck Series, it's $712,347. Overall, it's no surprise that the Cup Series always has more money, considering you have all the charters. You have to kind of pay everybody out there. That's not bad purse money, in my opinion. I guess Xfinity Series is up a little bit from the past weeks. And Trucks usually never has over $1 million in the purse money. I do wish they could distribute those purse monies a little bit more for the Trucks and Xfinity Series. I wish they could distribute that just a little bit more. But it's not a surprise that the Cup Series is going to have more purse money. So not a big surprise right there, and it's not a major shocker to me, in my honest opinion. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Jeff Gluck poll from Dover. According to Jeff Gluck's poll, which he does every single week after every single NASCAR Cup Series race, this race ranked in 80.2% of people said yes, which I believe is the second best of all races that he's had at Dover. I don't remember exactly what the number one was, but that was the second highest rated poll for Dover, and it was a really good poll for this year. It really isn't a major shock. Dover this past weekend was a really, really strong race. The best race I've seen at Dover probably in a very, very long time, probably since early COT days. I became a fan right at the beginning of the COT era, and I have to say that the racing really back then wasn't amazing here either. Yes, there was dirty air, but generally I thought the racing was really, really good here. So I'm glad to see that the people really enjoyed this race like I did. I thought it was a really solid and great race, and I'm looking forward to see the racing coming up this weekend at Darlington because I'm really excited for that racing. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Toyota. As Toyota this weekend is going to be making their 1,500th start in NASCAR as a manufacturer. Toyota has been in NASCAR since 2004 when they debuted in the NASCAR Can World Truck Series. And at this weekend's NASCAR Xfinity Series race, they will reach their 1,500th start. Absolutely incredible to see that Toyota is celebrating their 1,500th start as an organization, as a manufacturer. They've won Truck Series championships, they've won Xfinity Series championships, and Cup Series championships now. And it says that Toyota has had as a brand will carry on for years to come. Congratulations to Toyota on making this opportunity. Congratulations to them on completing it and doing this opportunity to get to 1,500 starts as a manufacturer. How long will they be around is the question. How much longer will NASCAR be around? I think 1,500 starts from now is going to be very tough to get there in 10 or 15 years, but we'll see how long NASCAR is around. But I think they could have an option to get to 3,000 starts as a branding. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Hendrick Motorsports. Now, one thing that I found very, very interesting in regards to Hendrick Motorsports is that all 4 Hendrick drivers have won in the first 11 races this season. That being Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, and William Byron. That is the quickest a 4-car team has won, had all their drivers win since 2007, when all 4 Hendrick drivers won in the first 12 races. As a matter of fact, I believe that that is the quickest ever a 4-car organization has ever won and gotten the quickest it's been. You think about maybe this earlier this year too. This could have been done earlier had Chase Elliott actually won at Phoenix. He had a really fast car at Phoenix. Hendrick could have had all their guys winning in the first 5 races, which would have probably been very tough to beat that record. Hendrick Motorsports right now is definitely the team to beat in the NASCAR Cup Series, and it really shows by them having all their guys in. They've got a lot of time to experiment and do a lot of different things, and I think the field should be scared of the fact that Hendrick already has their cars in. You wanted to beat those Hendrick guys, and the fact that you've got all 4 of them in, they've now got time to work on their cars and really do some other things, and it's going to really, really affect this. But really cool to see Hendrick Motorsports continuing to break records here in the Cup Series like they always do. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Kyle Larson. Now, a lot of people had questions in regards to where Kyle Larson was, because Kyle Larson was supposed to be at the Hall of Fame banquet, the Hall of Fame voting panel, since he was a NASCAR Cup Series champion from last year. Well, instead of being there, Kyle Larson was actually at a memorial ceremony that he set up really since June last year, and was there to lay a wreath at the tomb for a soldier as a prelude for the Coca-Cola 600. If I had to choose between a Hall of Fame and laying down a soldier, I absolutely would more lay down a soldier, in my opinion. I think what he did was so good to see, in such a charismatic driver, and guy I think that's really, really classy. A guy that really, and him and Jeff Gordon were there as well. So it was really cool to see that he did that. I kind of felt really, really happy about it, and I'm glad to see Kyle Larson was there to commit to something that I feel like is more important. Well, the Hall of Fame is definitely important, don't get me wrong, but I think it's cool that Kyle Larson went out there and did that. I think that's really, really awesome, to be honest with you. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Skull Bandit. Justin Marks revealed on Twitter yesterday that the Skull Bandit they currently have Skull Bandit Trackhouse Racing, and Justin Marks says they will take the Skull Bandit car on track for some pre-race laps before the green flag drops. Man, Trackhouse continues to make names and basically win in every form of thing, regardless of what they're doing. And that's one thing I love about Trackhouse Racing. They've got the best design team in NASCAR, with Kyle Sykes designing all their cars. We're winning a lot of races now with 2 wins this year, and now they can take pace car laps with the Skull Bandit car. Incredible. The Skull Bandit from 1991 is going to be able to go on the racetrack. It's just such an incredible feeling as a fan. and it's absolutely amazing to see. So that's really, really awesome, and like I said, I'm very happy to see that the Skull Bandit was able to get on the racetrack. Really, really exciting news, to be honest with you. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Barber TV ratings from this past weekend. So, it was reported by Adam Stern, I believe, on Monday evening, Tuesday evening, I should say, that NBC scored a 0.59 rating, well, I think Monday evening, I should say, 0.59 rating and 920,000 viewers for Sunday's IndyCar race at Barber. Basically flat from last year's season opening race there, which got a 0.59 rating and 921,000 viewers when including streaming out of home. Keep this in mind, Barber last year, when they started the season IndyCar, was the first race of the season for Barber. This was the fourth race of the year, and it's only down 1,000 viewers, which really is nothing. It's basically flat from the past. I think this is a good sign, though, for IndyCar, the fact that people are still continuing to watch even into the fourth race of the season, and that with the good rating stuff, it gets people really hyped up for the month of May. You've got the GMR Grand Prix from Indianapolis that Juan Montoya is going to be competing in, and then you have the Indianapolis 500, which is really, really coming up here very, very shortly, which I think a lot of fans should absolutely be really, really excited for. But it's good to see that IndyCar continues to have a lot of fans that are engaged into the sport, and like I said, very exciting to see that Barber did have some pretty good ratings. It wasn't perfect, but I think the ratings were pretty good, in my honest opinion. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about some suspensions from this past weekend. And probably the most suspensions we've probably seen up to this point this season. A lot of them do come from tire issues and one for a behavioral issue. So, in the Cup Series, 2 drivers lost a wheel. First, Denny Hamlin. Because of Denny Hamlin losing a wheel after winning the race off pit road, Chris Gabehart and 2 crew members have been suspended for 4 races. Now, one thing that's really interesting, is that there was a wrong pit crew member that was suspended. I don't know why they suspended this guy, but I think it was Blake Houston who got suspended, which I don't understand why he got suspended, considering the fact he wasn't the one to mess up. He did everything right and still got penalized for absolutely no reason. And I think we'll talk about suspension when it comes to the tire issues here in a little bit, but they were suspended for 4 races. The other Cup Series driver was AJ Allmendinger. Because they had a tire issue as well, where the tire came off pit road during green flag pit stops, Matt Swiderski and 2 crew members have been suspended for 4 races, meaning Matt Swiderski will be out for the next 4 weeks. In the NASCAR Xfinity Series, Taylor Moore has been suspended for 4 races. I think Kevin Prince will be for AJ Allman, the 16 for Daniel Hemric this weekend. Sam Mayer is going to have Andrew Overstreet for the next 4 weeks, but Sam Mayer's crew chief Taylor Moore and 2 crew members have been suspended for 4 races. The other person that was suspended was Jason Houteling, who was a crew chief up until Talladega for Jesse Hendrick Motorsports. He has been indefinitely suspended for a behavioral issue. I do want to kind of talk about the situation when it comes to the wheel issues when it comes to this. 8 teams so far this year have been affected by this. The 16 team, the 11 team, the Joe Gibbs Racing. You've got the 11, like I said, the 11, the 16, the 23 for 23 11, the Money Teams 50 organization. Both Kyle cars have been affected by this at this point. BJ McLeod Motorsports, Spire Motorsports, and I think another organization in the back half of the field has been affected by this as well. To me, I think, yes, there definitely have to be penalties when it comes to a big wheel, 18-inch wheel coming off, because if someone hits that tire, it's going to go up in the air. But in my honest and sincere opinion, though, I don't think that a 4-race suspension really should be. I think you're punishing the teams too much. It's in the Cup Series side of things. I think Xfinity, I think that's a fair penalty. But for the Cup Series side of things, I personally believe that maybe 2 races is the most a pit crew should lose their crew chief. I think 2 races where it should be. The good news is that the All-Star race does count, so they'll be back after the Coke 600, actually right after Gateway, as a matter of fact, is when they're, I believe, going to be coming back here. But in my honest opinion, I think that the suspensions need to be reversed a little bit, and something needs to be done about these wheel issues going forward, because it's happening every week now, and I thought by now we would have these issues fixed, but honestly, they've not been able to fix these issues, and hopefully they can fix these issues going forward into the future. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Indianapolis 500 TV broadcast that is going to be happening this year. So, the Indy 500 TV broadcast has some changes, but mostly is the same for this year. So, Mike Tirico, Danica Patrick, Dale Jr., and Rutledge Wood will be hosting the pre-race show. I believe Steve Letarte will also be on the Peacock box as well. James Hinchcliffe, Lee Diffie, and Townsend Bell will be on the broadcast call. Again, they've been doing IndyCar all season so far, and they all have great chemistry with each other, and the commentary has been great. On pit road, you're going to have Marty Sider, Dave Burns, Kevin Lee, and Dillon Walsh. I believe this will be the first time that Dillon Walsh is commentating on pit road for the Indy 500. But the other three, they've had a lot of experience commentating. But I think you've got a really good all-star group of people here. I think Mike Tirico always does a great job bringing the broadcasts in. He's always done great regardless of where broadcasting he does. He does an amazing job. He's done some NASCAR work before, and I think he does a really solid job over there. Danica, she wasn't great commentary-wise when it came to NASCAR, but I will say when it comes to IndyCar, I think she'll do a much better job fitting in with the IndyCar crowd, and I think this she'll be, because of course she has experience in the Indy 500, no shocker there, but she has a lot of experience there, so she'll do probably really, really well. And great to see that Dale Jr. is back. Yes, Dale Jr. is associated with NASCAR, but he understands the history of the Indy 500. The Indy 500 is such a legendary event. He understands that. And, of course, Rutledge Wood. Look, I like Rutledge Wood. He may not be the greatest person on the group, but I think Rutledge Wood's fun to have, and I like Rutledge Wood a lot. And then everybody else as well works together very, very well. I think the Indy 500 TV broadcast is really, really good in my opinion. And definitely excited for the Indy 500 TV broadcast coming up here later this year. Really excited about it. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Stephen Wilson. And speaking of which, the 2022 Indianapolis 500. We've been wondering about the 33rd entry for a very, very long time and wondering what team is going to enter the Indianapolis 500. Well, we officially got announced this morning that Stephen Wilson is going to enter the 2022 Indianapolis 500. And it's going to be 3 teams that are collaborating together to have this project go out. Cusack Motorsports has been working with Stephen Wilson. I think an IMSA will be there. You're going to have Dragon Speed, who's been in the past in the Indianapolis 500. They've attempted a couple years. And then AJ Foyt Racing is also going to be helping out this organization. Stephen Wilson, for those of you who do not know, Stephen Wilson is the younger brother of Justin Wilson, who passed away in a horrendous crash in 2015 at Pocono. He's competed for Andretti Autosport and has had pretty decent success with Andretti Autosport. Nearly won the Indy 500 a couple years ago in 2018, but unfortunately late in the race, he unfortunately had to come back down the road because he did not have enough gas inside his car. When it comes to this team, I would very intrigued to see how they're going to do. Again, it's last-minute notice. I hope that they've been prepared enough to get out there, but the fact that they waited till the last minute does have me worried that they're not going to be very, very competitive. But the good news for them, there are not going to be any bumping. There's going to be no bumping. That's why they've changed the qualifying format for this year, because there's going to be no bumping in this year's Indianapolis 500. But they're probably going to be finishing near the back of the field, unfortunately, in the Indy 500. My other question is, will this team be around for more races here, or is this going to be a one-time thing? That's one thing we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I do think it's really exciting to see that you do have a new organization that is coming in. It's great to see that they're full. We got a full field for Indy. So many people have been really concerned about that, but I think it's great to see that there will be a full field for the Indianapolis 500 this year, and I'm glad to see that Stephen Wilson and his team are going to be doing that this year. Really exciting news for sure, to be honest with you. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Kylekirkwood. As Nathan Brown, who works for the Indy Star, he reported that Kylekirkwood is expected to go to Andretti Autosport in 2023. AJ Foyt's principal, Larry Foyt, has said that he expects as well that he will go to Andretti Autosport in 2023. But Kylekirkwood is expected to make the jump over after really having some decent success with AJ Foyt Racing, is expected to go back and over to Andretti Autosport, as it should be. Now, Kylekirkwood, of course, is a very, very talented American driver. He's won every series before coming up this year in IndyCar. He had won in first year every time he's been in with a team. He won in USF 2000, won Indy Lights, won the series before that, and now is going to be in IndyCar, and he's been in IndyCar this year, and has had some decent success, but also has had some crashes as well. Kylekirkwood going back to Andretti Autosport absolutely makes a ton of sense. They actually were trying to get him over to IndyCar this year, but because of the situation at Michael Andretti and his team were not able to get that deal done with Formula One and Alfa Romeo, that's why Kylekirkwood did not end up at Andretti Autosport. And the reason really why this is going on to begin with is because Alexander Rossi is being rumored right now to be leaving Andretti Autosport and going to Arrow McLaren SP. The rumor is there's going to be a third Arrow McLaren SP car next year, and Alexander Rossi might be heading over there to be teammates with Pat O'Ward, who's expected to return, and Felix Rosenqvist. That's the rumor going on at the moment. Kylekirkwood is definitely an amazing talent. I hope these rumors are true that he's expected to go there. So I think he will make a great candidate to be at that organization. And like I said, I really hope he does well. If he does go over there, I hope he does really, really well this year. It would be really, really exciting if he does, and hopefully he will do very, very well. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Ken Schrader. As the SRX officially revealed that Ken Schrader is going to be racing in the SRX at I-55 Speedway on July the 16th. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Ken Schrader, who's won 4 NASCAR Cup Series races and is a legendary racer in the dirt scene, I believe also part owner of I-55 Raceway, will be one of the star drivers that is going to be racing at the racetrack. Oh my goodness, Ken Schrader is racing the SRX. Ken Schrader is generally one of my favorite race car drivers of all time for many, many reasons. One, he of course is from my home state of Missouri, but he's also been with the I-55 crowd for such a long time, has been associated with that crowd. I've seen him race many, many times. And when I was a kid out at that track, I saw him race out there. And to get to potentially see one of my heroes, my driving heroes, get to race at I-55. When it was announced, I was just so pumped up to see this. I've been a fan of Ken Schrader for years. Really, since I became a NASCAR fan, I've been a fan of his. And to see that Ken Schrader is going to be racing the SRX is just a dream come true. There's so many stars going to be racing at that track. I think Matt Kenseth's going to be out there. I don't remember if Matt Kenseth's racing out there, and I think he is racing at that track. I believe Hailie Deegan's going to be out there. There's so many incredible names going to be racing at this event, of course, all the full-time drivers. But to have Ken Schrader out there just makes me so happy as a fan. It gets a little emotional as well to see one of your childhood hero drivers that you grew up watching as a little kid just being able to go out there and race. It feels so incredible, and I'm very happy as a fan that I get to witness this happen. So I'm very happy that Ken Schrader is going to be competing at the SRX race. I think it's absolutely amazing, and I'm just so happy to see that Ken Schrader is going to be racing the SRX race. I think it's amazing, and I'm excited for sure that he'll be racing in the SRX race. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the 2023 schedule. Now, I was listening to the Racing Writers podcast that Kelly Crandall does every single week, and she has Steve O'Donnell on. We have 2 major points that I really want to talk about, but the first point I want to talk about is the 2023 schedule. Now, Steve O'Donnell says that he hopes to have the schedule out earlier this year than last year, and is working on one big major new event that's going to happen. He's not expecting many changes to the schedule for 2023, but they're working on one major new event. Again, I think Ben Kennedy said this back at the LA Coliseum weekend as well. They're not expecting as many changes, but they are working on one major event. Now, what's this major event that I think they're working on? Well, there's a couple of potential options that they're looking at. Number one, I think they're looking at potentially trying to go international and go to different countries. They've talked about this in the past. We talked about this with the stadiums. Because of the success of the Los Angeles Coliseum race, people think that they think that they could probably go international. So that's an option they have. They could go to Wembley Stadium for all we know. They could go to other forms, different types of tracks in the European Continentals, or go back to Japan and race in Suzuka or Twin Ring Motegi. That would be a great option, but that's a possibility right there. But the more realistic option I'm looking at is the Chicago Street Course race. There has been a lot of rumblings and rumors around the Chicago Street Course. We kind of had those talks heat up very, very recently, and we're hearing more and more about Chicago Street Course. Again, I think it will be back in the Chicago market. There's also talk that maybe Chicagoland is trying to get in contact with NASCAR, get a race back here in that area, which, let's be honest, I think Chicagoland absolutely needs to get back in there. They've got some work to do on the grounds. They've got to get some of the vicinities updated. But from what I've seen from the track that hasn't been active for 3 years, they've done a really good job keeping up on the track. There's one area where there's a lot of grass in, but they've done a really good job keeping up the track. I think the major change, what they are going to be happening, though, is I think that they are, like I said, going to be announcing a race up in Chicago area, regardless of Chicago Street Course or Chicagoland. I think it will be racing in that area next season, and it's unclear when the schedule is going to come out. I would expect it will come out in July or August this year. I think it will be earlier than September. We know some changes and some things that probably will be happening next year. Will the Los Angeles Coliseum return next year? I know that they want to bring that back. And what other changes are going to be happening? That's one thing we'll have to wait and see, but we'll see what happens with the 2023 schedule here in the future. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about manufacturers. On the same podcast that Kelly Crandall does, Steve O'Donnell says that NASCAR is in dialogue with one manufacturer that is close to joining NASCAR here in the near future. Now, what is this manufacturer to be exact that could be joining NASCAR here in the near future? There's been one manufacturer that keeps getting brought up in many, many circles that everybody knows at this point. It just has not been officially announced at this time. That manufacturer is Dodge. Dodge has been rumored for about a year now. Talks really started back in November of this year that Dodge was in talks with NASCAR to try to get into the sport. And they are right now the front runner to make the jump back into NASCAR. Dodge has not been in NASCAR since 2012. They left NASCAR after 2012. They originally were going to have a Gen 6 car in 2013, and they were going to have Kurt Busch drive for Andretti Autosport. Andretti Autosport was supposed to make the jump over to NASCAR in 2013, and Kurt Busch was supposed to drive. It was also rumored at one point that Matt Kenseth also was going to drive for this Andretti Autosport organization as well. But unfortunately, that deal kind of fell through, and that car never came. And that's the reason why Kurt Busch did run in 2014 the Indianapolis 500 with that team of Andretti Autosport, because of the fact that he had that deal to run with them in the Cup Series. I think Dodge is going to be the manufacturer that makes the jump, and I think, like I said, with many circles that I've been listening to and things I've been hearing, Dodge has been the closest manufacturer that could be making the jump. Now, the big question is, when is that new manufacturer like Dodge, when are they going to make that jump into NASCAR? And I will tell you right now, it will not happen until probably the new engine configuration comes in. And when is that new engine configuration supposed to come in, by the way? Well, the talk right now is that it's either going to be 2024 or 2025 is when the new engine configuration is going to come in. It originally was supposed to come in about a year or two ago, this year actually, but they've been pushing it back a couple of years because of the COVID-19 pandemic. They've been delaying it, but they are looking at trying to make that configuration happen here probably in 2024 or 2025, and it hasn't been really any changes. It's been about a year and a half really since they've changed anything in regards. So I think it's still, they're tracking for 2024. We haven't had official confrontation. And I think what they'll be doing here when we go to Le Mans here very, very soon is the fact that they'll be testing some new engine components to try to see if that will be what the new engine package comes in. I think that's what they're going to be doing here. So overall, in my honest opinion, when it comes to this, I think it's very, very exciting that they're looking at a new manufacturer. New manufacturer important for the sport, for expansion around other things. And I think it's great to see that NASCAR is looking at trying to expand for the future when it comes to new manufacturers. I hope we get a new manufacturer in the future. It's great for competition. It makes the Dodge fans really, really happy, and it can get new fans back into sport here in the near future. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about the Dover TV ratings for this past weekend. And they're not the greatest in the world, but there's a lot of factors into that. So, according to Adam Stern, FS1 got 944,000 viewers for yesterday's Dover race that was postponed from Sunday. While the Dover is not amazing, the last Dover race to conclude on Monday on FS1 was in 2019, and that event got 798,000 viewers. Overall, those Dover TV ratings, the fact that it was on a Monday afternoon at noon Eastern, which I should have started that for the Sunday race, and I'm going to keep reiterating this, we should be starting these races at freaking noon that don't have lights. These tracks that don't have lights should be starting no later than noon or 1 Eastern. No excuse for that. They should be starting these a little bit earlier. But for a race that was postponed to Monday, that actually is a really, really strong TV rating. Nearly 1 million people watched on a Monday afternoon that were at school. I know some people were posting on Twitter and stuff and on their social medias. They're watching the race at school. And of course, they count that with the streaming as well. And of course, I was able to watch that event as I was off of work at the time. But I will tell you this, those ratings are still good, and the fact that nearly 1 million people watch on a Monday is still really, really solid ratings. And even look at the crowd as well from Dover. For a Monday crowd, that's a really, really strong crowd. It's not as good as Sunday's crowd, but the Monday crowd was still a really, really strong crowd. And with that, I think that, and again, we saw a really, really good race as well. I talk about it's one of the best Dover races we've seen in a very, very long time. And that's one thing as a fan I've been really, really overall enjoying is the overall racing. So, in my honest opinion, I'm glad that the ratings were not down really that. Well, they were down from what we were going to see at Sunday. I think they were saying they're going to be 2 to 2.1 million viewers for Sunday's race, which I think would have been up the other Dover races, which would have been good. But it still is up regardless from a Monday afternoon race in 2019. I think it shows the sport is growing in some areas, but also it's not growing in some other areas as well. So it's good to see that for sure, and I'm glad to see that the TV ratings are pretty good, in my honest opinion, for Dover. Now we're going to jump on to the first of three major stories of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Dover and their future. Now, there's been a lot of rumors and rumblings going on behind the scenes about Dover's future, and been wondering if Dover is even going to return after this season. And the big reason is because a lot of people think it could be as early as next year, 2024, that we could see a NASCAR race in the National Fairgrounds area. Well, the answers really came through this past weekend, especially with a great crowd this past weekend at Dover. And it was an article that was written from the Associated Press, and Mike Burch, who works at SMI, and the president, of course, of Dover Motor Speedway, basically says that no one has ever looked at making changes to thriving events. And if an event is doing really, really good and attendance is great and the racing product is really, really good, they're not going to get rid of a race track. And that really should just tell you the whole story. Dover is not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And let's be honest, I did not expect Dover to be leaving after this year. I thought maybe after 2023 could be the last year for Dover. But especially with sets, and really you kind of have to have a track up in that northeast area. New Hampshire's lost one of their dates. Pocono's lost one of their dates. And if they lose another track, you're really just going to be hurting that northeast area. And there's a lot of fans who are from that northeast area. So you do want to keep having a race up there. And especially with the racing this past weekend at Dover, I thought it was, like I said, the best race in many, many years at Dover. I think we will continue to see Dover on the schedule for many, many years to come. Again, I absolutely enjoyed this race as a fan. And again, the crowd really showed. And we did talk about this earlier this week on Tuesday of this week, that ratings and attendance this year have been going up in major, major ways. Daytona 500 was sold out this year. Dover had their best crowd in like a decade. I've not seen a crowd that good in a very, very long time. And yes, there's definitely a lot less seats that are in that area, but it's great to see that fans are showing up. As again, one way to really keep these tracks going for many, many years is actually showing up to the racetracks. If you show up to the racetrack, it shows that you appreciate the racing out there. And I think it's great to see that Dover is coming back next year. As a fan, again, I wasn't the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan overall of Dover, but definitively I become more of a fan of Dover this past weekend just because of the fact that we saw a great race. If the racing is good, people are going to enjoy it and they're going to come back. And I think hopefully fans that watch the race show up to these racetracks going forward so we can keep racing here in the United States going. Because you want to keep racing going, that goes for every type of track. Show up to the track. Again, a lot of people are worried about this track too because SMI has been making a lot of changes. But when an event is thriving, the event is doing really, really good, they're not going to get rid of it. So it's great to see that that is returning, and I'm very happy to see that they will be returning to Dover here in 2023. It's great to see that Dover's coming back next year and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's probably going to be around for the next 5 or 10 years. So great to see that for sure. And happy to see that Dover looks like will be returning in 2023. Really exciting news for sure. And now we're going to jump on to the next major story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the 2023 NASCAR Hall of Fame class. That's right, the 2023 NASCAR Hall of Fame class was officially revealed. Let's start off with the Landmark Award. Mike Helton won the Landmark Award for 2023 for excellence outside of the sport. Mike Helton has been working in NASCAR for a very, very long time, really for around 40 or 50 years. So he's been one of the big higher-ups in NASCAR for many, many years and has been making a ton of changes inside and outside of sport to keep the sport growing and flowing. And Mike Helton's been doing such a great job for many, many years. He's been one person I've had a lot of respect for in our industry for many, many years. So it's amazing to see that Mike Helton is going to be back and winning, of course, winning the Landmark Award is such an incredible achievement. You win that Landmark Award. Janet Guthrie, I believe, won that Landmark Award. Ken Squires won that Landmark Award, and he absolutely deserves it. Again, there's other people that could have reserved an opportunity at that, but Mike Helton, if anyone on the list, absolutely deserves it for the Landmark Award of Excellence. Mike Helton absolutely deserves it. Now let's get to the people that are actually officially into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. For the Pioneer ballot, the person that was the best in that group was Herschel McGriff. Herschel McGriff is joining from the Pioneer ballot. Herschel McGriff, for those of you who do not know, Herschel McGriff has been racing in NASCAR, really was racing NASCAR from the beginning. Herschel McGriff began racing in 1945 in the world of racing, and his last race came in 2018. And he won 4 NASCAR Cup Series races, winning them all in 1954 with his 6th place points finish. He only competed in 80 starts, had so many top 5s and so many top 10s. Had he competed more in NASCAR, he probably could have been one of the greatest of all time. But just having a guy like Kirkwood, who's been raced for such a long time, just for his tenacity and what he was able to do as a driver, is just amazing to see. AJ Foyt on that Pioneer ballot, by the way, AJ Foyt actually came second. He nearly actually got into the NASCAR Hall of Fame this year. But Herschel McGriff, who's been on that for such a long time, about time Herschel McGriff. I was so happy to hear his name get in. He absolutely deserves it and absolutely earned. Now let's get into the modern ballot, because of course for the modern ballot, only 2 people get it from that, and there was a lot of amazing choices that were for this year. The first person that's getting into the NASCAR Hall of Fame for the modern day ballot is 2003 NASCAR Winston Cup Series champion and 39-time winner in the NASCAR Cup Series, I believe at this point, Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth, everybody on this list, is the most decorated driver on this list. He's won the Southern 500, 2 Daytona 500 victories. He's won the Coca-Cola 600, a NASCAR Cup Series championship as a driver, and has won with many organizations. He helped Roush kind of get back a little bit on their feet 2018 and 2019, and was extremely competitive and was extremely humble. There have been a lot of concerns about Matt Kenseth getting into Hall of Fame due to what happened in 2015, but 69% of people, nice number by the way, voted for Matt Kenseth, and he absolutely earned the respect of a lot of competitors out there. He was that classy and a driver that never really got on your nerves a lot of times. He did have some rivalries throughout the year. Some drivers really got under it, but Matt Kenseth really kept his composure for most of his career and continues to do a lot of great things. He's still racing to this day and absolutely great. He was out in his yard when he found out, but it's just great to see one of my favorite drivers of all time is getting in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. People that I grew up watching are getting in the Hall of Fame. It just feels so surreal. And congratulations to Matt Kenseth getting in the Hall of Fame. The other person that's getting into the NASCAR Hall of Fame is 4-time NASCAR Cup Series championship caliber crew chief Kirk Shelmerdine is getting into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Really absolutely deserved. Kirk Shelmerdine, like I mentioned, won 4 NASCAR Cup Series championships as a crew chief. I think 34, 35 Cup Series races as a crew chief as well, many races, and did this under the age of 32 years old. Kirk Shelmerdine was one of the big reasons to help Dillon become one of the greatest drivers of all time, and got help by starting off with James Hilton at such a young age. And if you're going to have someone that other person absolutely deserves to be in Hall of Fame, Kirk Shelmerdine absolutely deserves it. He also was a racer in his time as well and knows what he did on the racetrack. And again, he's another person that absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And he really well deserved for Kirk Shelmerdine. Huge congratulations to him that he gets to officially be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2023. So your Hall of Fame class for 2023, Matt Kenseth, Kirk Shelmerdine, and Herschel McGriff. On that list, you had Harry Gant, was really, really close. And Harry Hyde also got very close to being in the Hall of Fame. But congratulations to the 3 of them of joining the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Well deserved for the 3 of them. They have earned the respect and the right to get into the Hall of Fame. And I think everyone on the list will get in the Hall of Fame at some point. But it's great to see those 3 were the choices that got into the Hall of Fame. Huge congratulations to them. And now we're going to jump on to the final major story of today's episode, as we're talking about William Byron. As it was just announced here a few minutes ago that William Byron has signed a contract extension with Hendrick Motorsports that will go through 2025. He signed a 3-year extension with the organization. Before the beginning of this year, we knew that William Byron was expecting to have to get a new contract with the organization because his contract ended after 2022. He was the last Hendrick driver that was needing to sign an extension. Chase Elliott had to sign an extension through 2027 or 2028. And Kyle Larson and Allison both have contracts that currently go through 2023. But now with this extension, he finally has locked up a 3-year extension with the organization of Hendrick Motorsports. Let me just say this right now. This is absolutely well-earned and well-deserved in my honest opinion. William Byron, who was a 2017 NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, nearly won the Truck Series Championship in 2016, and now has 4 career NASCAR Cup Series wins and 2 victories so far this year, and is a championship contender at this moment. William Byron is finally starting to come into his own right now, and he's got spots that are willing to back him. Liberty University's been backing him. Exalt has been backing him with Raptor, and has sponsorship and funding that is willing to work with him. And like I mentioned with him and Rudy Fugel's relationship in the Cup Series has been working together very, very well, and they've been performing extremely well this season. And of course, he's making some Xfinity Series start this year in that 88 car for 2 races this year. But when you look at the stats of William Byron this season, he is really, like I said, coming into his own. I think we're starting to see a driver that potentially could win a championship this year and win many, many championships over the years. Now, like I mentioned, his contract does go through 2025, so he does, but I know for a fact that Hendrick Motorsports does want to keep him longer, but a lot of that is a determination is what sponsorship is going to be working. We know that Liberty University, they have a contract right now that goes through 2027 or 2028 with Hendrick Motorsports, so they're probably going to want to back up and keep sponsoring Liberty with William Byron over time, and they're going to want to keep working with him. But like I said about William Byron returning, absolutely well-earned and well-deserved, in my opinion, the fact that he's coming back to the organization that here very, very long term. And it really is a good thing. He's another driver that's kind of on the free agency market because he not returned to Hendrick Motorsports, that'd be horrible. But you now have a Hendrick lineup that is going to be around for many, many years. Of course, you have Alex Bowman and Kyle Larson both through 2023. Kyle Larson, I expect that he will get a contract extension once again here in 2022. Yes, he's not been as successful this year as he was last year at this time, but I think that Larson's going to be around for many, many years. He'll probably get a 3 or 4 year extension once again of the 2026 or 2027. Alex Bowman's the only one right now that I'm a little bit concerned about. It really depends on how long Ally is committed to the team, but I think that Alex, if he continues to win races and contends for championships, I think he'll be around for many, many years as well. And of course, we know Chase Elliott, he's going to be around for a career as well. I think Hendrick wants to keep this core lineup. They've had the best start they've had in years. They've got 5 wins up to this point this year, which is more than last year at this point as well. And they look so strong right now. They're all in the playoffs right now. And it's good to see if William Byron being as good as he's been this year, with already 2 victories here. It's great to see that other while sponsors are also committed to work with him. It's amazing to see that William Byron is locked up on an extension. Congratulations to William Byron on getting a contract extension with Hendrick Motorsports. And also great to see that Hendrick is keeping and committing to working William Byron long term. Absolutely deserved. Congratulations to Hendrick Motorsports on extending William Byron. He absolutely deserves it. I think he will win a championship here in the next couple of years, which is why getting him extended right now is a really important thing. I wish it was a little longer. I think he could be more successful long term, but by the end, he'll be, I believe, 28 or 29 years old. So great to see that he's getting extension with the team. Well-deserved, in my honest opinion. So, anyway, that's going to be today's long NASCAR and motorsports video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on page as well. Let's get you over that and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts of William Byron getting a contract extension or not? Do you think the contract is fair, or do you think the contract should have been a little bit longer? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about the 2023 NASCAR Hall of Fame class? And do you think the people that got in absolutely deserves it? Let me know in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to be reacting to every single NASCAR Cup, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series throwback paints. Again, we reacted to some of them here today, but we'll be reacting to every single one from Cup, Xfinity Series, and Trucks, and you should definitely check it out for the throwback weekend. Tomorrow, we're also going to have a Truck Series race review after the Truck Series race concludes, and then depending on if I have to work on Saturday, I'll have an Xfinity Series race review, and then Sunday, I'll have a Cup Series race review for the race at Darlington. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some regular awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.